Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of The Golden Shovel. I am once again hosting this week. I am joined by Roscoe.
How we doing, folks?
And we are short one Dartron Collects, who has patched us to go and watch some football or soccer for some of our international viewers who I have noticed looking at analytics. We have got approximately 50% of some of our viewers on our shorts and our recent videos are actually coming from North America. So hello to you.
That's cool.
It's been a busy week in WWE. We have criticised the Backlash build-up because it's so short and condensed. However, I feel it's turned up a notch this week.
Yeah,
I don't know how you feel about that, Ross.
I feel like across the three shows, we got some pretty good storytelling and some good matches to boot. I don't think there was a glaring weakness like there was last week, which is encouraging.
Yep. For anyone who is new or joining us for the very first time, this is a podcast where we break down the storytelling. We look at the booking, we look at the decision making, and we do a bit of fantasy booking and going ahead to see how stories will go. And each week we hand out the self-titled, eponymous, very prestigious Golden Shovel to the booking, decision, and storyline that's leaving us scratching our heads. I.e., we have no idea where this is going, and we have no idea why that decision was made. To recap, first two episodes, week one, it went to The Rock just burying everybody over WrestleMania weekend after teasing showing up and then no showing the show. And last week, we awarded it to the Women's United States Championship picture because we feel that the title is a bit lost, and the fact that it was kept off the Mania card and then dropped quite quietly a week later is just confusing. This week we will be making the decision between the two of us because normally it's two people present and one person makes the decision, but we're obviously a man short, so we'll try and come to an amicable decision. There is only one place to start this week though, folks, and that is, as I predicted, and I'm taking credit for this, as I predicted last week, we will do some future endeavours. Ross, anything to pick out?
Well, I did see the names. There was a lot of names that, I did not recognise as being back into the product recently. It did seem like they took our advice. So, pat in the back for us. A lot of that NXT logjam has been somewhat cleared. There was a lot of NXT names that were on there. Nothing that really stuck out from there, but in terms of the if you want to call it the main roster, Baszler and Bron are probably the two names that stick out. I guess Shayna's maybe at that age. I think she's in her 40s now, and hadn't really hit that same level that she'd had before, mostly from the crowd. The crowd reaction wasn't really there. Bron's an interesting one. Bron's a guy who's wrestled his whole life, I think, with a 10 or 15% paralysis on one of his legs. And it looked to me like his last injury, maybe just lost a step. They're maybe looking at him going, will he recover that? Probably not. It's weird. It feels both a little harsh and yet a little fair at the same time. And then there's a whole lot of names in there that just shrug. Okay, they'll probably go land somewhere. Like Dakota Kai, it's probably one of the ones, right? She'll go land somewhere.
I think you've picked out the two that I want to talk about. The younger talent that's been released, I think, as we said last week, there's an NXT logjam right at the top, especially in that women's division. It's so top heavy. Yet on the main roster, there's a lack of excitement about some of the stories that are going on, particularly on Raw. But wrestling's changed. Especially in the last 10 years, everything's online, everything's streamed. These people have a chance to go away, do something different, still be recognised for their work. I think you've got to look at guys like Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, who were released or had contracts expired, went away, turned themselves into hot commodities and came back and have been right at the top of the business for the last few years. So for people like Cora Jade and Dakota Kai especially, I think it's a good thing. I say a good thing. Never getting released for the biggest cut in the world is never a good thing, but you can make it a positive. Cody Rhodes turned himself into a hype machine immediately and just travelled the world, taking on the best of the best. Didn't want to do the beat at the time. Cora Jade, I think, is mid-20s. Very talented. I think I think she's just been lost in that shuffle with Stephanie Vicker, Julia, Jordan Grayson, these people coming in for NXT. You know, it's probably better to go and try something else and elevate yourself outside the company than it is to get lost to the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Dakota Kai has been very unfortunate with injuries. And unfortunately, when she should have got the payoff at the end of the Damage Control storyline, she wasn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they brought her back for the Io Sky stuff and her knee braces and leg braces after her ACL injury. So it is sad. I think she's talented. She's got a good look in the ring, good performer. But there's no story for her. So go to TNA, come to some of the European promotions, travel the world. Don't go to AEW. I think this AEW is and not in a bad way. I think Tony Storm's so clear in the women's division in AEW that you risk being lost as well. Go and be a superstar that travels the world and is the name on the show.
Yeah, and come back 12, 18, 24 months.
Aye.
And you could find yourself back to further up the card. Certainly, you might still be in NXT, for example, or something like that, but you might not necessarily be lost.
Yeah, 100%. Shayna, it just hasn't worked. She's good. She works well. I imagine that's a big contract with not a lot of return on investment.
If you go by some of the whisperings, I think she was removed because it was monetary value. It wasn't there.
Bron, I find really interesting because he can barely walk. But as you say, it's from that point of view, I get it from a business standpoint, but also that he's out there putting his body in line every week in pain.
All the time.
For all the time for the company. I know that, well, I believe the rumours are when his last release, he was on something like a 2 million base as a Universal Champion. So even if he's on half that this time round, that's a hell of a lot for a guy who's basically working as an enhancement talent. What I will say is he's a huge part of Bronson Reed and Jacob Fatu getting over. Yeah. In terms of establishing them as monsters. So if anything, I would have liked to have seen him on some sort of part-time deal, maybe working in TNA. Which could, that could work. Maybe a low base salary with, an appearance fee type thing that allows him to work on his injuries, and you can use him to get people over. Like Jacob Fatu was getting over anyway, but before his injury, Bronson Reed was on a path to superstardom, and Bronson was a huge part of that. It's the first time in 25, 30 years that WWE hasn't had a literal giant. Yeah, because you've had no Big Show, Taker, Kane, Braun, these guys. So you don't necessarily need a giant, but there's always been one in my lifetime. So I'm with you on that one. I think for the under talent, there's no one there that was setting the world on fire in terms of their matches and story, but they're talented enough to go away, regroup, come back. And Shayna, I think Shayna will be a hot commodity on the open market in terms of the indies and some of the promotions, because she can be a bit of an experienced mentor and help establish other people. And Braun, I don't know, Braun was posting videos all weekend in the Bahamas. He's having a great time. He's made his money. He'll be fine. He's fine. So yeah, I mean, I think that was longer than they wanted to spend, but I still think there's more coming. I think there was a few more changes to come in the next few weeks and months. I'm assuming we'll get a draft or a shake-up at some point as well to balance it out. I think it would be really interesting if they have whisperings of one to do a little fantasy draft between the three of us and see what we come up with. We have discussed either putting up 2K25 or a tier list for that. So if that's something that MD would be interested in doing, or maybe even want to join in, get involved, come as a guest. We can look at that. NXT. Yeah. Can we do NXT in under 10 minutes? Yes, we try and stick to a schedule this week. Yes, I think so. I think that, our long show helps. It was decent. It maybe felt a little set-up-y, I would say, but there was still some highlights to come out of that, like Joe Hendry being so believed that he was taken out entirely by a group of people, which I'm really interested to see the angle on that one, because obviously I can't remember the timeline if it was before or after he's obviously had his moment with the Hardys on TNA, but
I do wonder where that leaves him when he comes back. Like, is he going to be feuding with the entirety of Darkseid? Is he going to get one of them? That will be interesting to see. Don't know what you think about that.
He's clearly being protected.
Mm-hmm. I like that,
because if they put him in the title picture, he almost has to win it.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the TNA champion. I get the impression that they're going to allow him to do the job on his way out of TNA, hold the title for a few months, put somebody over on the way out, and come into NXT or WWE full time when his contract's up. Obviously, there's a really amicable workings between the two companies there. Obviously, there's rumours that a takeover is potentially going to happen,
yes.
which we could maybe discuss in a future episode. He defended the title, the TNA title, at Rebellion, and if he goes into a match with Oba or Trick and doesn't win, it devalues the TNA title, and people have complained about that before. And I know Daz likes to take pot shots at AEW, and I'm going to do my best not to. But when AEW had that work relationship with TNA, Kenny Omega walked in with every belt, and then Christian Cage took some belts, and AEW had all the TNA titles. So to me, it's a level of protection. Joe's being protected. He's been booked really strong. It took a team to take him out. It keeps him off NXT, but there's intrigue there.
Mm-hmm.
You get the impression they want him full time now, but his contract is going to be seen out, and that's how I'm looking at that.
That's definitely a hint that they're throwing out there. It's like the end of the year, beginning of next year, or something like that. His contract's out, so that'll be interesting to see if there's ever a sort of struggle for him, if you like. But so far, so good, I think.
And we're never going to hide the fact that we are massive homers.
Oh yeah,
to the Scottish guys you make over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are the ones that are always going to get a little bit of airtime on here. Come hell or high water.
100%. Before we talk about Trick, a quick minute on Lexis King. Obviously, the former Brian Pillman Jr. Came across from AEW as a kind of a star NXT signing. Lost the Heritage Cup to Noam Dar. And then obviously lost a North American title match with Ricky Saints. I'm interested to see where that goes. That's 2 big defeats in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see if he's doing a job or if it's a losing streak or if we're setting something up, because I would imagine he's eventually going to be elevated to
something, right?
The main event picture or the main roster. He's not. He wasn't brought in to be an NXT mid-carder.
Yeah, I think that
neither was Ricky Saints.
What was interesting to me was that match was probably my highlight in terms of the actual matches on the card.
Yeah.
It was a really, really good match. I think the Lexis King comes out of it looking pretty strong in a weird way. He's like back-to-back L's.
And I'm glad you've said that, because that is a huge part of my notes for Monday Night Raw, is I'm going to attack the IWC or some members of the IWC.
But it definitely makes you think that they must have some idea that if he is going to be elevated to something, that he can take a couple L's at this point in time.
Yeah.
And they're probably right if that's how they're going to book the match. Like, it wasn't a 5-minute squash, it was actually letting the guy show his talent. I thought he worked the crowd really well. 2 of them had a good back and forth. Ultimately, the finish was good. I had no complaints over that. Obviously, it can look weird, even in the short term, if this keeps on happening. But, so far, that's okay.
I only seen it strange from the perspective of losing. I know the Champions Cup there goes me copying you for last week. The Heritage Cup is a big giant trophy rather than a belt, so it feels different. But you lose a title, then you get a different title shot a week later. You lose that one. It's just an interesting pattern that we don't often see. And the final, we'll quickly mention Undertaker getting very little pop in the arena when he appeared on screen.
What was that? I couldn't believe that.
It's just unusual.
It was almost like as if it wasn't shown on the Trons. It was just purely shown for us at home. It was the strangest thing.
I don't think that's true, for what I tried to research at the time. Last big stories, 25-man Battle Royal next week for a number 1 contender match. Fine, gets people on TV. I'm going to assume, we believe that there's 22 people shown in the graphic. And
unless I can't count, which has been known to happen before, but it looks like 22.
And the 3 guys for LFG were kind of featured across the show. So a chance to showcase them. I would assume that a 25-man Battle Royal is going to set up a few different feuds and stories for the next few weeks as we head into sort of the next set of PLEs and towards Worlds Collide. The other option is maybe they bring in a few guys for AAA ahead of Worlds Collide, but we don't know. And I loved Trick's heel turn. Heel turn on the mic. We don't see it as much as we used to.
Yeah.
Rather than a turn in the ring and turn on something, a beat down, it's just like, I'm not taking any more of this shit.
Oh, that's great.
Great, but with a bit of personality. Trick's a main event talent in NXT, and he's a upper mid card talent, at least at the moment, on the main roster. He spent a bit of time on SmackDown last year. My concern is making sure he doesn't get, again, we talk about that pack. He's sitting at the top of NXT. He's not been elevated to the main roster. We've talked about Melo getting a little bit lost.
We have, yeah.
So interesting where Trick goes. I think the heel turn, good couple of months, but he needs a move to the main roster.
Yeah, he needs a move to the main roster or make it worth his time being in there if he's going to be in there in a length of time. But I agree, because you can just become, oh yeah, he's just the top of NXT, and then he's sort of stuck there forever. The
good thing is with the working relationship with TNA, we saw him appear in TNA a couple of times recently to confront Joe Hendry. So there is plenty of television options for him to be showcased. I'd love to be able to say, like, if they can get Joe Hendry out of his contract to LA, Trick Williams in TNA for a few months, maybe he takes the TNA title. There's a bit of a kind of part of a compensation package. I'm not saying that should happen, but it allows Trick to work at a different level.
Yeah.
Be the lead guy on a show. A wee bit extra main roster prep. So definitely options. I thought NXT solid show. I believe NXT Battleground, I'll just double check, is a couple of weeks away.
You say end of the month, isn't it?
It's the end of the month, so it does just feel like it's a, the short turnaround from WrestleMania to Backlash has meant everything's been 100 mile an hour on the main roster. Battleground feels like they're having to hold off. We'll probably have Backlash this weekend, and then we'll start to see the build up properly in the next 2 weeks, I think.
Burn, isn't it?
But almost too slow.
Almost.
Okay, because it feels like this is a more natural progression and gap between big shows rather than 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Obviously, there was some changes to the program, and we'll see. We've got the number one contenders matches coming up in the next couple of weeks. So, in fact, next week we've got Oba Femi will defend against the Battle Royal winner, and Stephanie Vicker will be challenged by either Julia or Jordan Grace. My prediction for that, I'm going to assume Jordan Grace.
I would imagine so.
It looks as though Julia, Roxanne, and probably Stephanie are main roster bound pretty soon.
And is it not Jordan Grace the one that signed the multi-year extension? Is it her that signed that?
No, she signed from TNA at the start of the year, so multi-year contract.
Makes sense.
This is part of that shuffle we talked about last week. Let's go into the main roster now. You can tell me how long we've been recording for, but I think we made decent time there for the first couple of segments.
Yeah, under 19.
Still 5 longer than I liked, but that's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we are rattling through these shows. We have picked out half of the show to talk about, roughly.
Yeah, I would say so.
And moving forward, the plan is to have like a quick 60-second quick recap of the stuff we haven't talked about, just to say we're aware of it, but we can't talk about everything. We'd be here all week.
Yeah, I think the main themes will serve everyone well. Yeah, because we've got to talk about the same feud 2 weeks in a row. It doesn't work.
Big notepad, ready to go.
Yes, yellow one.
Trustily. The good thing is we are going to ramp up some of the shows over the next few weeks with the paper premium live events.
Yes,
and we'll cover some stuff in other videos on the channels as well. So we aren't going to forget about things. We'll just try to streamline a little bit. So very, very quick opening half an hour of the show. LA Knight's still massively over.
Oh yeah.
DP's over. Drew McIntyre's over. Fatu's massively over. It is a filler feud. It's a waste of time, but
it's great though.
The thing that stood out to me though is Solo has been lost in that shuffle.
A little bit. He's almost there just to kind of be the one who sparks the chaos, really, and then leaves them all to it. It's very interesting because I get that there is 4 guys here who, yes, that feud doesn't really matter, but someone has to go over and someone has to take a pin. You would imagine there's no way they're gonna have a fatal 4-way that ends in a DQ. Like, it's surely that
can't. I don't have DQs in fatal 4-ways anymore.
There you go. See, so like you got to do something with this. So yeah, he's almost the sort of odd man out. But I thought overall, their angle that they're going for this, where it is, let's just have chaos every week. It's so watchable. It's so watchable. Like as a way to start a show, it was fantastic in my opinion. Someone, it's probably, I'd imagine Fatu's probably going to hold it. I would think. Yeah. We'll talk about that in our Backlash preview. A fantastic segment, and you're right. Every one of those guys who's actually involved in it is just red hot, absolutely red hot. And I think that's something can be said as well for the opening and Raw. That's 2 shows where the opening segment is just setting this fantastic tone for the rest of the show to just piggyback off of, and it creates so much momentum.
We've talked about a lot in the last 2 weeks. About elevating people, but elevating titles and championships. Championships are only worth the stock that we as fans put into them. Mm-hmm. But we engage by having people who care about them and wrestlers who put on great shows when competing for them. This is what that feels like. Like the US title feels important this week.
Yeah, it does.
Like even though we, it's a 90% chance Fatu shouldn't drop it this quickly. He's on the path to superstardom. Drew's heading back to the main event. Damien's at risk of being lost in a shuffle, but every time we say that, he elevates back with another good match and good feud. He's right at the top of his game. I think I wasn't sold on him for a long time, but I think he's brilliant. LA Knight, to me, he's just proper wrestling. It's just a character. It's brilliant. Yeah, he's got the initials to back up. He gets it. Solo is the 5th guy in this feud, if you like, was the silent sort of bodyguard of the bloodline. He's done a good job a wee bit. He's sort of is Fatu's mouthpiece. And to be fair, I get the difficulty in that they've lost Tonga Loa and Tama. Mm. So that story's going to die to death a wee bit. Again, we talk about the tag division on Raw. They could go there and be part of the things they could do. Don't lose Solo as a main event world champion type talent. Hope we don't lose that in this. But as Ross says, we'll get to the predictions later in the week. We are hoping to record that Wednesday or Thursday and get out to you guys on Friday. I'll repeat it multiple times in the episode, but we'd love for you guys to get involved. Send us your predictions, bold or otherwise. Because if we all agree with each other, it's going to be one boring-ass prediction. But the US title feels important this week, and it feels important because we've got 4 guys right at the top of their game, taking it seriously. Ross, anything you want to pick up from SmackDown?
We can't not speak about it. They appeared last week. They got their debut win, and then they were involved in whatever the hell that was. I will admit, I've said it a few times and I'll say it again. This is me getting back into the product. I have never heard of or seen Pretty Deadly before. To have them in the red state that is Iowa is a choice, and I will stand by that. I don't really know what the segment was backstage. It didn't really do it for me. That's fine. That match was borderline unprofessional at some points. To bust the guy open because of a botch, not then realise that he does not know where he is, and there's like a good minute and a half of that match continues on. He's at the ropes, and they're like, no one's got him out of this. No one's tagged him at the match to just get him on the apron and get him out of there. And then the multiple pins that just did not work at all.
So you've definitely missed something with your assessment there. So I'll throw us back in a second. It's a disappointing second week for Fraxiom because they're on the path to the top of the tag division, and that to me this match sets them back. Pretty Deadly. It's a little bit like the Breeze angle. gimmick
It
with
felt
Tyler
like
Breeze
that,
and Fandango, but they are very good in the ring. They are very good workers. The gimmick's never going to allow them to be tag champs at that level. That's the issue I've got. But as athletes, they're great. They're in this match for a reason. They're making Fraxion look good. The bust opens. The bust open. You watch it happen. I think he's gonna get some sort of studded wristband on. I think it looks as though it rakes across the bottom of his chin. On the standing it's a standing shooting star, isn't it? Standing shooting star press. Not that I want to criticise the referee, but I think the referee needs to take a hell of a lot of blame for what happens in the next few minutes.
I think that's fair, is because they are part of it. They are part of it as much as the people in the ring are.
If you notice, Fraser takes Elton Prince to Elton Prince's corner for the next bit of the match to allow Kit Wilson to make the tag. So I know you're saying they got him out of there, but they did take. You know who normally isolate a tag team competitor away from their corner?
Mm-hmm.
He takes him to his corner, which to me shows a level of professionalism. He realised he needs to get tagged out. Now, the bit I don't understand is Elton Prince at that point is basically knocked out, and I did not see an X signal.
Yeah, there was nothing.
He didn't kick out of the pin, which, as far as we're aware, the referees are supposed to just count what they see. Mm-hmm. And if the referee counts 3 when they're not supposed to, it's on the competitors. The ref counts 2, and there's no kick out. The next botch is some sort of power bomb, and Fraser doesn't kick out, and the ref counts 3 then. Yeah. Despite the fact that that's clearly not the finish because the wrong team has gone over. So three botches, a bit of a delay in getting somebody dealt with what looked like a pretty serious head injury in terms of did not know where he was. His chin looked like it was hanging off. So it won't hurt Fraxiom. It won't hurt pretty deadly. But it needs tidied up. Bit of a disappointment considering how massively we praised them and how happy we were to see them on the main roster.
Because that match last week is exactly what we needed, was someone like that to come up and just go, right, okay, we're going to go do some business, and it was really good. So yeah, that was disappointing. Maybe I've gone a little bit too harshly, and that's fine. But yeah, they can't really let that be their standard, because it's not going to be great.
Going to just do a quick hit of the stuff we won't talk about in detail from SmackDown. So the Miz Aleister Black situation, the Miz did have a bit of an unfortunate promo, which he realised halfway through what he was saying. Okay, it was fine. It's a one-off match. I would expect that we might get Aleister Black versus Melo at Backlash announced on Friday night. But what is the plan for AB moving forward? We're not going to talk about this again. Yeah, it looks fine. Music's great, but what's the plan after Backlash?
I think that's going to be one that we'll definitely pick up post Backlash.
Yeah, I think so. The question I would ask for the India and SmackDown writing team is, are luchadors allowed to fight non-luchadors? Because we had Rey Fenix versus Santos Escobar, who Santos Escobar was heavily featured. I think he's wrestled 2 matches in the last 6 months.
Wow.
So what is the plan for these guys? Is it purely because you brought something new to the company and he could wrestle with somebody else that speaks Spanish? Is it as simple as that? And I'm just overthinking it. But I don't understand that. And actually that's it, because the last 2 topics is the game. We'll try and keep this, but it shows the whole women's division of SmackDown feels really strong. Mm-hmm. The US women's title picture still confuses me. Why is Piper Niven now suddenly potential #1 contender? I know she lost the match, but
it was very interesting, that whole backstage segment, for me as someone who is also a little bit of a politics nerd, and I was not familiar with this stable hitting out with all of those, shall we call them, current American political tropes. Was very funny to me. Like, with the deadpan delivery, I was like, this is great. Most people are not going to enjoy this. This is great. But even I know deep down that it's they're kind of just, if you're going to hit me out that kind of thing, they're kind of really supposed to be a comedy act. They're really not supposed to be the people that are going to be pushing themselves into proper title pictures. And yeah, we're going to be homers. She is from Scotland, that's fine. Why? It's a good question. I don't get it myself. I'm not going to say that's golden shovel worthy. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But why?
I'm left confused. the whole picture, like we said, it was last week's Golden Shovel. The title feels unimportant. The individuals feel unimportant. Chelsea Green did a really good campaign last year as an individual, elevated herself, was the absolute right choice to hold this championship. It hasn't been working since then. The move to the whole Secret Service setup, I like it. It's funny. It's interesting. It helps that she can go in the ring as well. It's not just a pure comedy act. Zelina, we talked about last week, for longevity purposes, earned the right to have a championship in her waist. But I actually replied to somebody on X, on my personal account, not on the Fandems account the other day, and said that, you know, if it was me, why not have Charlotte take the US title and have a US Open Women's Challenge like John Cena did? Because she doesn't have to lose it. You can elevate people whilst beating them.
Yeah, and
saw
obviously
it with like Sami Zayn, John Cena and stuff like that.
Charlotte is another person that we've spoken about many times, immediately gives that title importance. She's won so many world titles that you put that belt around her, even if it's for 6 months, that title immediately becomes valid.
We're not sitting here as massive Charlotte stands, but we see the vision on Monday Night Raw with the Becky Lyra story. We might need something like that on the other show. It could be Nia Jax would work if it would on the heel route, but what's the plan for that whole division? Speaking of women, main event women's title picture. We had Mr. Nick Aldis have a wee throwback Teddy Long, which is always good fun. It's always good fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Teddy Long was just perfect. He was a character who knew his job and knew his character role brilliantly. So the wee throwback to Teddy Long was brilliant. I'm going to throw it a couple of thoughts on this, Ross. I'm going to read my notes for this one because I was taking this really seriously. Naomi stands tall at the end, despite the fact that she's not in the number one contenders match this Friday.
Yes.
Nia was pinned by Jade in the tag match. But I predicted, and Daz agreed last week, and you didn't want to, that Nia would make sense as the kind of first feud. Now, I still believe that will happen. I don't think Jade's ready to carry a big main event feud. The other thing is my controversial statement on this whole scenario. Tiffy should drop the title. I should drop it this week. Because I saw some clips surface from last year, year before, 2 years ago, when Becky went back to NXT and did that wee program to help elevate the title and elevate Tiffy and Lyra. And Tiffy's promos were like really intense and really good. The Tiffy Time stuff is kind of.
Do you feel like it's ran its course?
It's not ran its course, but it's a bit like the Yeet, where we talked about last week, where Jey downplayed the Yeet, let the crowd do their bit, but he did his intense promo. We're like, yes, that's what a world champion looks like. Tiffy played off the crowd, did a really good job. You know, she was dancing at Tiffy Time, but it's what I said this 2 weeks ago when I predicted Charlotte to take the title at WrestleMania, not because I wanted Charlotte, not because I thought it was the right thing to do, but because you want to see how somebody like Tiffy reacts when she does the Money in the Bank. She's not the champion. Not a heel turn, but like a change in personality and a climb back to the top. So I think there's a change needed there. We believe Naomi will be a champion this year. I'd like to see that on Raw. I think Nia should take back the title on SmackDown. I mean, maybe not this month, but possibly Money in the Bank.
I think, sooner the shake-up happens, the quicker something like that can happen. That whole segment for me did leave me feel a little bit confused, because it looked like at one point you're even going to have like they kind of like hint at it in the segment and then kind of almost throw it away, but you kind of feel like there's one moment where you actually think, right, is this actually going to be like Nia Naomi? There's like one moment, I can't remember exactly what happens, but there's like one moment you're just like, wait a minute, is that, what's that? And then that doesn't work for me. As much as, you guys have said Nia had that big run, we know that Naomi's capable and deserves it. That feud, I don't know if that makes sense to me. So I'm kind of glad. I kind of hope they don't do that. If they're going to go their separate ways and have Nia move Brand to go and run after a title, that could work.
I get the feeling that Naomi costs Jade the number 1 contenders match this week, and that sets up Nia, Tiffy, and Naomi Jade can continue the following week. That's how it probably go, unless they go for a tag match.
Player.
But maybe a tag match at Backlash with the title on the line for whoever makes the pinfall. You know, one of these ones where it's a little bit every man for themselves or every woman for themselves. You know, without looking too much ahead to the Backlash predictions, which we'll do later in the week. There's too many feuds that feel like they need to be multi-man matches.
Yeah.
And there's too many feuds that feel like we get a screwy finish. Because we know Cena Orton's not going to be clean.
Yes, which is a really, really nice way of leading into Cena Orton and talking about it. Because for me, we kind of had like a very brief conversation, like kind of dancing around it a little bit. I now understand why they've chose this feud. It just, to me, it makes sense. There's a few reasons why. One, Orton is getting him booed now, properly. The crowd are feeding off of Orton. He's always been good on the mic, right? But I think in particular his promo there on Friday night was exceptional. Like it was carrying on from the week before, fantastic. But they throw in a wee hint. I can't remember if it was before the segment or after the segment, but Cole throws a little hint in of for potentially the last time. You're like,
yes,
this is not the only time, then, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And we said this last week, and we've discussed this in the Discord all week. Are we getting this early so they can do it twice?
And I see if that's the idea. Book it.
Because, and as you said, I watched, again, peeking behind the curtain. I do my Smackdown read up. In the UK, we're getting this at between 1 and 4 in the morning. Saturday morning, Tuesday morning for Smackdown Raw. So Saturday morning I usually get up, watch the highlights, and do a bit of reading up, gather my first set of notes, and over the course of the rest of the weekend I usually watch the full show. So I watched the full show yesterday, and that is the two things that jumped out for potentially the last time. It's been booked as the last time until Cole said that. And the other thing that stood out to me, Ross, was the Legend Killer gimmick.
Yes.
You're just another legend I have to put down. And I'm like, for the first time since this match was announced, I have a genuine feeling that
there's a chance that this might not go the way we all expect.
There's a chance Orton takes this title.
And if it does...
I firmly believe that if John Cena's my GOAT. I think he's the GOAT, he's definitely my GOAT. Randy's number 2, and it's close, because I feel like Randy's just been at the top for so long without a proper break. I hope we get it twice. I hope we get, if we do it for 2 or 3 months, that's fine. If we get it once now, once later in the year, that's fine. But as you say, for the first time since WrestleMania, I feel there's jeopardy. I feel like the WWE struggled in the last 2 years, where if it's not, even sometimes the Rumble, because the Rumble's really set up Mania, if it's not WrestleMania or SummerSlam, they're not getting big title changes.
Yeah, whereas now, you might.
Because if it was anybody but John Cena, we'd all be sitting here going, Randy Orton should get the big payoff in St. Louis.
And he's earned it. 15-time
15-time champ. I don't want to get into the predictions, because we're going to do a separate video on that when Daz is back with us later in the week. But I'm going to pick Orton, because there's no point in all picking Cena. Yeah. To be fair, I think Orton would likely win by DQ and Cena retains. Is probably my cop out, but there's a world in which I can see it happening, and we all had this down as he's either his last or his second last feud. If you'd asked me who John Cena's last 3 feuds were going to be this year, Orton was one of them, Punk was one of them, and the other one would have been whoever was going over on the way out, likely Cody, but whoever was getting the title. I still see a world in which this can happen, because Michael Cole would have said that for a reason. He knows what's going on.
Yeah,
he knows the plan. I think him and John Cena used to ride together on the road, so he's going to know what the plan is. So I mean, SmackDown.
Solid show.
I thought SmackDown was a solid show. The tag match let it down because the tag match should have been the highlight.
Mm-hmm. Instead, it ended up being the low light, really.
And the injury let it down. So yeah, I mean, can't wait. I mean, we've talked about in the last 2 weeks about Cena Orton being a match you want to see until the bell rings, but I will be sitting here in front of this computer on Saturday night watching it, or downstairs on the couch.
There you go. It's got you. It's hooked you in.
That is a lovely segue into the middle of the show where I once again plug our socials. We are a new, I'll say YouTube group, but content group. We've been doing this for a little over a month now. We've all had experience of trying this in the past. We're a team of 4 guys from Scotland, all things WWE, gaming, tech, Pokemon, and hopefully anime if Ed or Craig decides to get involved.
Got some ideas for that. Stay tuned,
some good
folks.
ideas for that. Yeah. 3 of us on camera doing all this stuff, and Ed or Craig in the background doing some honestly amazing work. For our intros, for thumbnails, for memes.
Name it.
These are all passion projects. We're just in this for a bit of fun. We're taking it pretty seriously. Go and follow us: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, X. Get involved in the conversation. We would love to have comments, questions to answer. We'd love to hear your feedback on what we're doing, how we're doing it. We are spending time, money, effort trying to make this as good as we can. That being said, we will almost certainly be live on Saturday night in some capacity for Backlash.
I believe that Daz is earmarking some TikTok lives. Daz
is going to try and get TikTok live up and running. If I can make myself available, I may go stream it to YouTube and see if we can establish some sort of foothold there. So Daz can man TikTok, I'll man YouTube. And we're going to hopefully re-establish a Twitch channel at some point, but all our personal Twitch channels are actually quite well stocked, and the group one has 1 follower, and it's me. Yeah. So mid-roll promo, hit us up on all the social media channels. I believe it should be down there somewhere, that side. Every week I point somewhere and we change. As we try and figure out how
it's actually not where you pointed. I just
it's going to point there, and there. Right. As we figure out how we want this show to look. So please get involved in the conversation. Probably have to cut this bit now because I feel I've been talking for ages. But Backlash Predictions coming Friday. We'll say Friday evening, 5 p.m. UK time, more than likely. And hopefully live for Backlash on Saturday night. If not, we'll get something out ASAP and we'll do a full recap next Wednesday. Monday Night Raw.
Again,
Paul Heyman, man, what a guy.
Did you think he was going to pass out the same way that I did at one point? Because he was putting so much energy and passion into that I could actually hear his lungs screaming. What a segment. I think it's around about 20 or 30 minutes long, all in between that and the cinema.
No one tell my boss, because I had this on the background when I was working this morning. Cinema.
Fantastic.
What a segment. Paul Heyman is, we talked about this 2 weeks ago when I said about the 3 guys in the ring as the best storytellers, and Daz corrected me and said 4. Don't forget about Heyman. He's right, because we all think Heyman betrayed everybody. And he says, what about the position that my best friend put me in? And I'm like, holy fuck, this makes so much sense. Wow. As everybody else, Paul Heyman was put in that position by CM Punk. He's right. He's not right, but he's right. Unbelievable storytelling. The backstage segment after it was a bit cheesy, but
a little cheesy, but it works. It works.
There's a clear path. We all believe that Rollins will be champion again this year because that. I'll get to it because Jey Uso's flipped my mind in the last 2 weeks since he's held that title. Seth Rollins will be champion again at some point, but we are ready for Bron Breakker. Yeah. Bron Breakker is likely going to turn on Seth, or Seth will turn on him potentially we're going to get Seth versus Roman at SummerSlam or Mania, and Bron Breakker is going to actually rephrase that because I believe that Roman will go over clean eventually on Seth because he has to be clean at some point. But Bron Breakker's going to be an absolute monster superstar. He already is, but he's going to get elevated this amazingly. So the thing that stood to me for that particular segment is the podium bit, but Jey Uso is the man. The crowd love him. The crowd was brilliant. His promos have just taken off again. And like I said, I'm watching this and going, this title run could be longer than what I thought.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, obviously, you know, these entrants, the way he comes in, he's working the crowd, and you're like, okay, that's good. Like, that's the kind of what you see. But then it just keeps on going because it's just that he's giving them more, they're giving them more back, and you're like, everyone's invested in this. So if the crowd are buying in, he's doing something right. I'm really interested to see how long it goes. Obviously, we had that match there. Gets it over the line. I think this was it. What was the stat? Was it that was the first time the title had been defended on Raw in like 5 years?
Yeah,
something crazy like that. That to me is mind-boggling. But
well, bear in mind that Roman held it for 4.5 and turned up once every 4 months,
which in itself is crazy, right? But that being said, I think you're right. I think the plan probably was give him 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, something short like that, and we'll see. I would not be surprised if those producers, guys in the writing room, Paul Levesque, all these guys going, we may have to tweak this a little bit because he's just red hot. So just cash in, just cash in.
He's definitely getting to SummerSlam. It's whether he gets to the Rumble because they'll start to set up the Mania matches. That's probably a video for the next couple of weeks. Is predicting the top 4 or 5 matches for next year's Mania. Give us something to look back at after we do SummerSlam.
And no doubt get all of them wrong, but that's part of the fun.
I'm sold on it, and I wasn't. Let's do a quick cap of the stuff that we're going to gloss over. The Austin Theory, Grayson Waller situation, just break them up.
Yeah.
Right, Austin Theory is looking dumber and dumber every week. The guy is a great on the mic. He's an athlete. He's a performer. He looks the part. He needs a gimmick change. He could be if he punches Grayson Waller in the face next week, he'll immediately be the biggest face on Monday Night Raw. Just do it.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're already in that segment. They're dancing around it mid-segment. Like
it just feels like they're waiting. Pull trigger, just do it. They're burying both guys. Both guys look amazing. Both guys are brilliant. They're great talkers. They're burying both guys because the story's dead.
Yeah.
Nothing for the tag division. Although I'm really interested to see what they do with Rusev. He's teasing this sort of reclamation project thing. Him and Otis as a tag team, I could get invested in that. With Tozawa as you could be a 350-pound monster Otis, and yet you're dancing about like an idiot. So anything to shake up my tag division, I could bin for it. And the last thing that we will gloss over before we dive right back into the big hard-hitting stories is the Gunther Pat match. Still can't be bothered with it. Said last week, Gunther just has to squash him, bury him, kill him. And yes, Bill Goldberg is probably going to appear after the bell. Fine, as long as Gunther destroys Pat and looks strong. Almost the point where if Gunther sells a couple of moves, fine. But if Pat get no offense, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think with the way the promos went and stuff, I think that is actually how this is going to go. I think they may have an angle where like Gunther's ever so slightly cocky at the start, and Pat does get in like 90 seconds, and then he'll wake up, boom, that's it, done under 5 minutes. I think that's probably how it'll go, and I think that is fine. For the love of God, though, do not give me Bill Goldberg. I am Bill Goldberg is to me what The Rock is to Daz. Do not do this to me. I've trodden this road. No.
I have no issues with Bill Goldberg as a professional wrestler. I just think that you reach a certain age and you can't do what you could do. He was never the best worker. He was an athlete that was put in those positions. He's an old man.
Exactly. Just don't. It's not worth it for anyone. Just don't.
He just risked Gunther's career.
Yeah.
With an injury.
For
Yeah,
what?
really.
To set you up another match in 4 minutes? Nah. Just don't do it.
We'll come to the women's division in a minute. Both the Becky Lyra segment and the main event picture. The Penta versus Dom story for this week. We'll keep this bit short because I think it's a talking point for the prediction show and next Tuesday. Spoiler, Dom can't lose that title after a month.
Correct.
Penta is in danger of Daz's prediction coming true about his booking going from that to that.
Also correct.
And that's why I'm talking about this weekend. Looks like matches that you need to be multi-man or dodgy finishes.
Yeah.
So that's all I want to say in that segment. If you're right, we'll leave that analysis for the preview show.
I agree, absolutely.
Daz has got a hell of a lot of input for that as well. Becky Lyra.
I like to
copy and paste for last week. Lyra's coming across looking really good, really strong. Good on the mic. The match needs to be good. Again, I hope it's a clean match, even if Becky goes over. As we've talked about, we expect Becky to probably go over, and eventually it leads to Bayley's return and Lyra getting the rub. The rub elevates the title and Lyra, and they get Becky Bayley at SummerSlam. My worry is that Bayley comes back this weekend and it's another one of these dodgy finishes that, you can see a pattern here that it just feels like dodgy finish.
They need something that's not, don't they? I thought it was slightly better than last week in that I thought that Becky didn't look. She went from looking kind of iffy last week to I thought she was okay, which that is an improvement, I would say. You're right though. Like, we will talk about it in the week, and we are kind of running out of how many of these matches are going to be normal. SmackDown's not going to have too many, but yeah, more Lyra, please. Like, she's new to me. I think she's a bit of a superstar in the making. She's gonna give me those vibes, and like, I really, really like what I see.
She benefits as well from having really good music because it's got the woos, the crowd get involved. Anything that gets the crowd involved in entrance music is gold for making a superstar. So Lyra looks so strong as a future star. She's in like the Gunther position with that Intercontinental title. She'll come out of this summer looking really, really strong. She'll eventually elevate the next person, whether it's sort of Julia, Roxanne, Jordan Grace, one of these NXT stars, or whoever in the main roster, and then she'll be propelled straight to superstardom. Watch out for the Rumble, dark horse pick possibly if she's ready, because they're not going to retread the four horsewomen and Liv Morgan type. They don't need the Rumble win. They can get to the main event picture through other means. I think she's a dark horse for that women's Rumble.
I think you could be onto something there,
because I'm just getting more and more impressed with each week. I knew about in-ring work, but this mic work has been brilliant. And Becky is really selling the Becky Hogan comparisons. She's been in complaining about today, saying she's been compared to the most despicable human being on the planet, and Hogan. So she's selling the Becky Hogan story, which is perfect. And again, it's going to give me a nice segue here. I'm going to just plead with the wrestling community. If Becky wins the match on Saturday, don't complain about burying Lyra. There's a long-term payoff. It's there. Lyra looks so strong right now. She looks so strong that she could win this weekend. And that would give her we're talking about her losing this weekend to allow the elevation over a period of time.
Yeah.
She's looked so good that that's almost already happened.
Yeah,
so it gives a bit of intrigue. That's there. I just hope it's not Bayley's return this weekend. And if it is, it's not in the matches after the match.
Yeah, do something to just ever so slightly push it. Give them their moment to kind of get this to the next step. I agree, because unless it's a squash match, if that match is booked reasonably well, Lyra will be just fine.
Which gives me a nice into the Roxanne Iyo match. So again, I'm going to jump on some of the IWC and some of the Twitter commenters. Roxanne has lost 2 matches in a row as a new star on the main roster. One was to Rhea Ripley, and one was to Iyo Sky. Literally the two biggest stars in the division in professional wrestling worldwide. She looked good. She looked strong. She's been booked as a heel. They're establishing her as a heel with Julia. Yes, the finish with the multiple reverse pins is a bit...
It was odd. It was the only critique I had, is that was just strange.
Yes. Literally my notes say Roxanne's looking really good. Not sure about the end.
Yeah. Like,
Because it felt like the actual pin that ended it, you can see, to make it happen, Roxanne had to throw herself back. Mm-hmm. So like the first 4 or 5 are quite okay, and then that one was like
obvious.
Not the weakest, but it was so obvious. If they'd done it 2 pins earlier, they'd been like, all right, fair enough. Mm. You know, you get caught in a schoolboy to roll up. It happens to every wrestler. That's fine. She's not being buried. This whole buried nonsense is crap. They can't just bring everybody up and have them win. You can go over in a match by not winning. For anybody that disagrees with that, go and watch Sami Zayn versus John Cena when Bret Hart brings out Sami Zayn for the US Open Challenge. Cena retains, but Sami comes across really, really well.
I thought
that's what's happening here.
I can see it, like that the match. Like, she looked good last week. I thought she looked great this week. Like,
yeah,
the entire match is great. They two seem to have a chemistry where I don't know how much they've wrestled before. Maybe not a crazy amount. It was like as if this was like their 5th feud. Do you know, it was that kind of way where this match is flowing. It's really, really nice. It felt good. Finish is iffy, but then it's the after finish. I really liked that. I thought that was a really good, fake handshake to give you the distraction. Love that. All for that. She looked
obviously people complaining that no one came to rescue Iyo Sky because they just released the Dakota Kai, but I'd imagine there'll be a tag match with Iyo and Rhea versus the two of them at some point. They did the tag match. The tag match last week on NXT, which we didn't mention because we're going to talk about them in this segment. So again, keep using that word elevating. Roxanne coming at the main roster looks good. You know, I think in ring she's such a good worker. She looks so smooth. Those simple details. She's always a shorter girl. You know, when she runs off the rope, she drops down and uses the bottom two and avoids the top rope. Wee things like that, like, just looks so clean, so smooth. Future world champion, so is Julia.
Commentary was definitely hinting that the E are very high on her. I think Michael Cole almost said it in those words.
She is not being buried. For people who are saying she's been buried, she is being booked very strongly. If you ignore the last 3 seconds of that match, she looked incredible.
I agree.
The main event.
It is like they've went, well, there's some chaos in that picture and there's some chaos in that picture. Let's just have more chaos here. That is literally what I have written, other than it was excellent. It is the order of the day. I loved it. I thought it was superb. Well, at least what we saw on TV. Obviously, there's been talk about what happened when the camera stopped rolling. But everything that we saw, I was a massive fan of. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic viewing.
The match itself was brilliant. Used to always joke pay-per-view quality match on free TV, and unfortunately for you guys in the US, we're getting it on Netflix for whatever we're paying.
£12 a month.
$20. Aye. So great match, unbelievable match. Again, the storytelling in the ring between the two guys is brilliant. They've got great chemistry. Jay's looking stronger and stronger every week, in the ring and out the ring. The World Heavyweight Championship. So we 2 weeks ago, I said it, and you guys agreed that sometimes people need to elevate titles rather than the other way around, and that Seth Rollins going back in as World Heavyweight Champion would help re-elevate that championship, bring it back up alongside the universe, the undisputed universe, whatever they're calling it this week. I've changed my mind on that. I'm sold on Jey Uso as world champion right now. I think he just looks the part. He's that connection with the crowd. Which when somebody takes it off him, they're going to get a really good bounce as a heel.
I think so.
Take a title. So as a match, it was brilliant. One critique was, I think, at one point, Jey Uso hits super kick, spear, and splash, and
he
Rollins kicked out, and you're like,
it's maybe a little bit much.
on Raw, that should put you away. If it's Mania, SummerSlam, big PLA, okay, fine, kick out. On Raw, that feels like a finish to me.
He then puts him down like 2 minutes later as well, doesn't he? So I guess it's like, well, if it was 2 minutes later, just you could have finished it there and then. I think
it's the same. It's the same with the spear pedigree spot. Like the pedigree should put somebody away. I know it wasn't a clean pedigree, and the commentary did say it was half a pedigree, but you know, on TV shows, one finisher should be the finish. Personal opinion, of course. So the match itself was brilliant. The Sami Zayn CM Punk. The CM Punk comes in, the place goes absolutely nuts. The guys,
it was sensational.
I'm not sure who he's facing, but he's winning a World Championship at WrestleMania next year. That I just think it's a given. It has to be. He's. I was always the person that understood why I left. First time. I was always the person who said, you know, he had the staph infection, people die from staph infections, and he was downplayed WWE. I totally understood that. He felt that his health and safety and well-being was in jeopardy by his employer. I totally understand that. I never understood his continual hatred and his I'm never coming back thing, because I think when you're that good at something, it's hard to stay away.
Yeah. So
I think he's came back, and I just watch it and going, honestly, December to December, right? We mentioned it last week. If I'm fantasy booking the rest of my year, I want CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, and John Cena inside the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
It's been done once in WWE history, Armageddon 2002. Put these 6 guys in a Hell in a Cell and let them beat the shit out of each other for an hour, right? Because just there's so much going on. Just maybe it's not Cena, maybe it's Orton, right? But whoever it is, just let that happen. Put the title on the line. Do whatever you need to do. Just these guys need to eventually end these stories and move on. That's a good way to set up that's a good way to have John Cena lose the title, go out. It's a good way for the individual feuds to then start separating out towards Mania season. I want to see another 6-man Hell. I want to see a 6-man Hell in a Cell. The guys' stories have been so intertwined in the last couple of years. It's there. That's my fantasy booking for you. That's what all I want is another 6-man Hell in a Cell. Once every 25 years is fine. But this main event was brilliant. The post match was great. I'm going to assume there's a tag match setting up somewhere. It's a good way for the feud to continue. Good way to continue to elevate Jey Uso. It's a good way for Punk. Again, my worry in that situation is Sami Zayn, CM Punk. What's the plan? At least this week there was some consistency with Sami Zayn's story. But if the plan is, if CM Punk wins another world title, it's going to happen at Mania.
I would think so.
He's done everything else in the business. But prediction would be Rumble win, Mania win. I'd even write him off telly for a few months. Just don't have him just doing random shit for 8 months until it's time to pull the trigger. Like, make it, and if it, because there's only so long he can feud with Seth Rollins. That could be a SummerSlam match.
It could be SummerSlam, write him off for a little bit afterwards. Seth goes over, say, give him a gap.
Aye.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So there's something there. The only thing that confuses me is having the Logan Paul attack post.
Yeah, why were those cameras not rolling for another 10 minutes? That's the bit that confuses me.
Technically, they were rolling because we got it on camera, but it wasn't part of the show. It's not a big deal, but if you're asking me what's the top feud on Raw right now, it's not a World Heavyweight title. It's these 4 guys.
I think that's right. I think that is right.
And that's my only worry. So chances of Logan Paul winning this Saturday were very low. They're now nil, in my opinion.
Yes.
The feud's elsewhere. So when we do a prediction show, I'll predict him right now that it's going to be a 3-0 whitewash.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the few ones where you'll get consensus.
You get a consensus. So the feud there is the match between Jey and Logan will be good, I believe. The feud, no, not good enough. The feud's elsewhere. So that's my lasting thought of Raw, but that was a high quality match. That is I'm so happy for Jey Uso because last year's WrestleMania, when him and Jimmy get a time cut, they put on a bit of a stinker that could have killed his momentum. He's earned the right to be a world champion. He's earned the right to be at that level. I'm so happy for him.
He's earning the right as well to stay at that level. Like
He's
not...
holding his own on the mic in the ring with Seth Rollins, who at the very least is in the top 3 wrestlers of the last decade and probably the top 5 of the last 20 years. Like,
yeah, right up there.
Seth Rollins might be the best wrestler of the last 10 years in WWE at least. It's him or Roman, but yeah, I've said I'll not get into too much detail on that. But that's who he's competing with as the guy and the best manager in the history of professional wrestling.
Yeah, he's holding his own, which I think in itself is a massive testament to sort of his path recently.
How are we doing for time?
Hour and 6.
Good. That's good. We've chucked off 10 minutes at least. Now we will obviously have a think about what to do for next week, whether we try and do a Backlash one straight after Backlash and then do the usual weekly podcast, or we'll just do the usual weekly. I'd imagine if we're live, we'll just do the weekly, because it would be a bit awkward to do Backlash then review Smackdown after it. But I hope you guys have once again joined us. We saw the views creeping up last week from the week before, so we'd love some interaction if you guys getting involved in the comment section here on YouTube, getting involved over our TikTok pages and Instagram. The challenge is throw us some predictions for Backlash this weekend. If you get them to us before Thursday, we'll use them for the recording.
Absolutely.
We might flash them up on screen, so if you don't want your name up on screen, let us know, but we'll probably bring them up on the screen for the pod and critique your predictions and opinions for either individual matches or matches. What we would love is some detail.
Yeah.
So if you think that Cena's retaining over Orton,
tell us why.
Tell us why. Tell us how. Because we will try and give a bit of in-depth thought behind these predictions come the end of the week. So the socials are on screen somewhat. I'm not going to point this time because I'm just going to get embarrassed when we go into post-production. Socials are on screen. We are loving doing this. Appreciate all the support we've had so far. But from myself and from Ross, signing out.
Yeah, tell us in the comments why the Golden Shovel should not be awarded to the referee in the Fraxiom match, because that is who's getting it. That's a good point, Alex. Yeah.
No
discussion required. That's who's getting it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I've wrote that in my notes and I've lost it. The Golden Shovel, the referee, because safety of performance is paramount. So
100%.
Unfortunately for the referee. Yeah, so thanks for... That's why we were 10 minutes quicker last week, because we missed a whole segment. If whether we fix it, I'll just leave it in as a complete screw up from me. Yeah, so signing out, we will be back with Backlash predictions on Friday and live at least on TikTok, if not TikTok and YouTube on Saturday for Backlash. So Roscoe, signing out.
Take it easy, folks. Enjoy yourselves.
I stole my line. Take it easy, guys. We'll catch you at the end of the week and enjoy Backlash.